The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit VoiceAmericaVariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit VoiceAmerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak. Are you interested in marriage, divorce, midlife dating? Keep it tuned right here for the next hour as Jim and his guest explore some fascinating and important topics. Now, here's your host, Jim Duzak.
Hello and welcome to Relationship Radio. I'm Jim Duzak. I'm a divorce lawyer and mediator, a columnist for ConnectionsForWomen.com and BoomerLiving.com, and the author of the book Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. At one time, I even owned a dating service. You can learn more about me if you'd like by visiting my website, www.attorneyatlove.com. And although this is not a call-in show, I do love to hear from listeners. So if you have a question, a comment, or a suggestion, please email me at jim@attorneyatlove.com. I'll do my best to get back to you the same day. My guest today on the show is Kara O. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because she's one of America's best-known writers in the field of men-women relationships. She's written several best-selling books, including Men Made Easy, Women Made Easy, and Marriage Made Easy. In fact, she's got a forthcoming book, I believe, that's called Flirting Made Easy. She's also written literally hundreds of outstanding articles and blog pieces. She's a popular workshop leader, a one-on-one counselor, and a former talk show host. Kara's website is www.karao.com, and that's spelled Karaoh.com. And you can use that website to contact her. Kara, welcome to Relationship Radio.
Hey, Jim, thanks. It's nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to be talking to you, Kara. You know, they used to say that James Brown was the hardest-working man in show business. Well, in my opinion, you're the hardest-working woman or man in the relationship business. You know, in all seriousness, how do you find the time to do all the things you do? Do you have a bunch of elves out there in Santa Barbara working behind the scenes?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I have shut down a lot of what I was doing because it was taking me away from what I love the most, and that's to write.
Well, I can just imagine because you know, having done counseling on a variety of different levels myself, I know how intensive that is. You know, when you get involved with the one-on-one and all the people that just, you know, they're calling you 10 times a day and all of that kind of thing. But I'm glad you're back to writing because your writing is, well, that's how I heard about you in the first place several years ago now.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, and I just, I love reading all your, well, again, some of your newsletters may be things of the past, but I hope you'll get back to some of the ones that have gone by the wayside because they were all great.
Well, I appreciate that. I mostly do that kind of writing on my blog now.
Oh, okay.
It's the simplest, and there's less pressure than I had with the newsletters.
And for the sake of our listeners, people can access your blog through your website. Is that right? Karaoh.com?
Yes. It's femininegrace.com/blog is another way.
Oh, okay. femininegrace.com/blog.
Yes.
Well, you know, I've mentioned 3 or 4 of your books, what I'll call the Made Easy books, and I thought that our listeners might like to hear a little bit from you about each of them if we have time. And I was thinking maybe we could start with the book Men Made Easy, because I think that might have been the first of the series.
That's the first. That's the only book that I actually have. It's out there, you know, in book form.
In book form. The others are the e-books, is that right?
The others are e-books. I just found that it's so much easier and quicker, and the first book really, there's some ego involved. It's pretty exciting to have a book in your hand.
Yeah.
You know, you birth the baby, there it is, and I can't imagine that there isn't a writer that hopes that it's going to be, you know, a New York Times bestseller. Mine actually is a bestseller. I've never revealed this to anyone, but it was Syracuse, New York.
Well, listen, you know, a bestseller is a bestseller.
Well, that's what my friend said. He said, hey, you are now a best-selling author, and so what you say. And it sold really well across the country when I was doing my book tour, but I've sold so many more in ebook form, and it's amazing how often it'll be in the wee hours, because that's when someone's hurting, they have a problem, they're looking for a solution, they stumble across one of my books, and they purchase it, and they can start reading right then. I love that.
That is really great. Men Made Easy. I remember the first time I saw the title. I said, are we really that transparent? Is it really that easy to understand men?
Well, yeah, actually, and I would assume that you know that already. Women, I do believe women are more complicated, and that's even my Women Made Easy is written for men in a simple form, kind of playful, where I'm comparing women to the game of golf, so the guys can get it. But it doesn't take a whole lot. I have 12 secrets in the book. The first one and the last one are the primary ones that a woman needs to know about. The first one is all about feminine grace. And if you really fall in love with being a woman, and you don't try to be a man, basically, a better man than, which is what women are taught nowadays with feminism, we can be even better than the guys. What is that quote? A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, my God, and I forget her name. She's very well known.
Gloria Steinem, I think.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, but there is a mindset that we really don't need the guys. We're better at whatever.
Well, that's why I always hated that line.
Oh, I know. That's kind of what it's meant. And she wrote that before she had a happy marriage. But it really is a matter of being beautiful in how you are. Because if you can be beautiful from the inside out, you take on a kind of glow. You're falling in love with yourself. You're in love with life. You don't need someone else to make you happy. You take responsibility for what goes on in your life, and you're attractive, like a magnet. It attracts metal. Mm-hmm. And the other secret is a man wants to be with a woman who makes him feel like a man.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens in our culture today is it's so insidious, nobody knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. But we really are tearing away at men all the time. The commercials, some of them are really funny, but what they're doing is undermining what we used to look up to men. Mm-hmm. And
now they're just a bunch of dolts and
they're buffoons, and even the kids are rolling their eyes at Dad, at how silly Dad is.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really damaging. It's especially damaging to romantic relationships, because the women are, kind of aren't able to see the men for what they bring into the relationship. One of the things I ask women to do is, in the beginning, write down the things that you like about him. Write down the things that make you feel good, that make you feel special, and then keep that in mind instead of starting to look at the stuff that doesn't work, because what we tend to do is focus on the bad stuff.
Speaking as a man, I can't speak for all men, but I know that there's a lot of frustration out there among men that it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing when it comes to women. In other words, that there's the belief that, or if you listen to women, that they always seem to be saying they want a man who's stable, solid, dependable, but then, what you see is that they seem to choose the bad boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also the idea that they want guys to be sensitive and unselfish and a good communicator, but then guys who are that way are sometimes rejected by women for being wimps.
Yeah. No, it's you're right, Dan. If you don't, there's no winning. That's what I try to do is point those things out to women in a way that they can really, really see it, but also at the same time give them the alternative. It's one thing to say, quit doing that. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have something to replace it with, you're going to go back to doing it the way you've always done it. I really believe in developing new habits. If you can read every book on the planet that has to do with relationships. If you don't change any habits, it's all for naught. It's just a big waste of time. So you have to consciously want bad enough to make a change in your life, to actually just take a few things, not the whole big banana. You want one or two things, start working on them, and develop these habits. And that's how I write, is I talk about, okay, here's a habit you can start working on, and this is how you do it.
You and I really see things the same way, because my mantra is little things repeated often.
Absolutely.
And really, when you think of it, that's the way people get in shape or lose weight or accomplish almost, or learn a foreign language.
That's right.
It's the repetition, and it's the same thing in relationships.
Well, and if you get down to the core pieces and work on just those, what they do is transform everything else. That's why I talk about, I have 12 secrets in this one book. The first one is develop feminine grace, because that has to do with your sense of joy, your sense of self-love, and to be gracious. You're not going to be mean to people. And that colors everything. If that's all a woman did, everything else would fall into place.
Yep. And as you say, let the man be a man.
Well, not only that, appreciate those things. There's a reason why women want a man in their life. Even women who are maybe unknowingly, but they're angry at men. They're angry at all the men that have done them wrong or done their friends wrong, or whatever, all the movies where they're doing naughty stuff. But whatever, they still want a man in their life. And I ask them, write down why. What is it that a man can bring to you? And make a list of the things that are what I call relationship essentials and mate essentials, and only get it down to maybe 5 to 8 things that you have to have in place when you meet the guy.
Well, this is fascinating stuff, Kara. We've got to take a short break, but we'll be right back with more information and insights from our guest, relationship author Kara O. This is Relationship Radio, and I'm Jim Duzak.
Ask the experts. Call toll-free right now, 1-866-472-5787. And ask our all-star team to answer your question. That's 1-866-472-5787.
Thank you for calling.
VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
The latest business information is made simple with the Voice America Business Network. The professionals in the business world bring you live talk radio shows featuring an array of business topics, strategies for building wealth, sales and marketing, stock trading, investing, and business technology. Voice America Business hosts are professionals in their fields and bring to the airwaves weekly business discussions that offer up-to-date information, advice, and education. The Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business talk. Want to have behind-the-scenes access to some of the greatest minds of today? On Shift in Action, we feature leading-edge innovators who are building a more conscious, sustainable, and healthy culture. Host Stephen Dinan offers live shows with evolutionary leaders such as Deepak Chopra, Van Jones, and others who are creating new paradigms for conscious living. You can keep your finger on the pulse of the latest frontier work with our weekly transmission of Inspired Wisdom on Shift in Action, broadcast live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern Time on Voice America. Stimulating talk.
Gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The number one Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
We're talking today with Kara O, author of numerous books on men-women relationships, and also a workshop leader and one-on-one counselor and coach. Kara's website is www.karaoh.com. Kara, before the break, we were talking about one of your books, Men Made Easy, which is a book about men, but it's really for women, as I understand it. And
yes.
I think I read somewhere on your site that when you were researching that book, you interviewed literally hundreds and hundreds of men.
I did.
And I'm just curious about that process. Did you have a set questionnaire, or were they sort of open-ended interviews?
Well, it kind of depended, and I'll tell you, the way I started the whole process of studying men, after I got divorced, 29-year marriage, I went off to Bali, and I was seduced by the most lovely man. It was actually an ex-boyfriend of the woman I was living with. She says, "Oh yeah, you'll love Patrick," and this whole world opened up to me. It's like, oh my God! So I came back to.
Sort of how Kara got her groove back.
Really, yeah. Well, and I was 19 when I got married and a virgin, and I mean, there's a whole world I had never explored. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Santa Barbara, and I created a workshop called Embracing Our Sensual Selves. And it wasn't about sex necessarily. It was about just falling in love with life and the sensuous pleasures that are around us everywhere. You know, the light on a flower. But sex was a big part of it. So I brought in a panel of men at the end of the day, 30 women in the room, 4 guys up there on bar stools, and answering any question that the women ever had. I needed to find out if these guys were capable of doing this. This isn't your normal thing you're trained to do. And
did you have men who were married, or some were divorced, some had never been married?
All age, didn't matter. And they liked it so much. They were telling their friends, "You got to call Kara and do one of her panels." But I would always interview them just to kind of find out where they were and their ability to be able to articulate whatever. And they would tell me at the end of the interview, "Wow, I never told anybody that before, but it was really fun to talk to you." And so I started noticing, what am I doing that I'm doing it, getting these guys to open up. And I was learning things that I knew that I didn't know, even after 29 years and reading lots of books, and that my women friends and the women that were in my workshops didn't know.
What kinds of things surprised you?
I think how much they really do want to make us happy. And when we let them know in subtle and not so subtle ways that we're not happy with them, or we're not happy with anything. They take it personally. I'm speaking they, even though you're a man. They take it personally as a failure. And you've probably heard a guy say when, he's told you he's gotten a divorce and you ask what happened, he says, "I couldn't make her happy." And they say this with the most, such failure in their voice. One of my secrets is a man is driven to make a woman happy. So, and it's really not his responsibility. It's our own responsibility to be happy. No one else's. But he takes it as responsibility. So whenever you let him know that he's failing in any way, you're basically emasculating him.
Right.
And you need to look up at him as the man. And when you're not really, because you're emasculating him, you're seeing him less and less of him. It's just a downward spiral.
Yeah. What about the issue that you hear all the time about men being afraid of commitment? I was wondering, is that really true, or are men just afraid of committing to the wrong woman?
Well, they're not afraid of commitment because they do it all the time. Either for a short period of time when you go into the however long that you'll not have sex with anybody else. But the marriage thing, men get married all the time. But for women, it falls more into the fantasy realm, which we grew up with as girls, and then it means babies, and it means the lovey-dovey family and a home and security. Mm-hmm. Whereas men, they look at it from a more practical, pragmatic perspective. If they are going to settle down, that's one of them, and take on the emotional and financial responsibility for a woman and whatever children may come into the relationship. We're looking at the younger, couples. He has to consider all of that. This is not a fantasy. Yes, he may be ready for a family, and yes, he may want children, but he has to look at it from this other perspective because he hasn't any choice. Yes, she may be very successful in her work, but our culture, even today with all this equality, women often, and if they have kids, in my mind, they should, quit working, at least while the kids are small.
Yep.
He has to consider all of that. It's not a fantasy.
Well, among younger men in particular, men also hear from their buddies or whatever, just from society at large.
Absolutely.
That, hey, she's real cute now, but after you marry her, she's going to put on weight, she won't want sex, or if you have kids, you're going to be a second-class citizen in your own house.
And they're naggy and whiny, and
they're needy, and going to be high maintenance. And really, the amazing thing is that as many men get married as they do.
Well, they have a biological drive as well.
Well, that's true.
Make a family. It's just not as obvious, but there's it's not really a joke. I actually was just writing about it today or yesterday in this Flirting Made Easy I'm working on, but there's kind of a joke that a woman falls in love with a man hoping he'll change, but he never does. Mm-hmm. And a man falls in love with a woman hoping she'll never change, and she always does.
That's very clever. It's not only clever, it's true.
It's true.
It's true. I think it's sort of related to that it's kind of interesting to know that once men are married, my experience has been that they usually want to stay married. But the vast majority of divorce cases, and I know this because I used to work in the divorce court as a full-time worker there, plus I had a divorce caseload as a practicing lawyer. The vast majority of divorce cases are filed by women.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in Phoenix it was something like 75% of all the divorce cases filed by women. So I think it's sort of along the lines of you were saying, that I think maybe women like the idea of marriage more than the reality, and men like the reality more than the idea.
Well, and another piece of that is that men are healthier in marriage. Mm-hmm. Women are healthier outside of marriage.
That's
physically healthier.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with bad communication. Women mothering the men is kind of an automatic. As soon as you do that, romance starts going out the door, even before the children show up. Children are the killers of romance. So I really I am such a believer in keeping the household, the unit solid. Mm-hmm. Because the kids need both parents. As long as there's not horrible things going on in the home, they need both parents there, and they also need a model of what love and romance and a good marriage can mean. I think our society is in such trouble right now, and we are not going to see the consequences until today's kids are running the world.
I think you're right.
It's very scary. There's no manners. There's no. We're not going to get it. There's a huge list that are real serious consequences for culture.
Yeah.
But there are things that couples can do to keep their love alive, and most of what goes on, from what I can see, is the counter to that. They kill love day after day, moment after moment. They're nipping away at the love. Resentments build up. They don't talk about it. They pick away at each other. It goes on and on and on. It's really sad, and it's not that difficult to learn to do it right.
Yeah, I agree with you. You were talking before about the kinds of things that women need to learn about men, but what kinds of things do you try to teach to men? And by the way, I really love the fact that you're a woman who takes the time to try to educate men. Not too many women writers do it. Seriously, they write they just speak to other women. But what kinds of things do you try to educate men about women?
Well, one of the things is to be able to communicate better what they need. And men don't study this stuff. They don't know what they need. Mm-hmm. They just know it either feels good or it doesn't. So I try to point out some things to them that then they can talk, like the differences between how men and women communicate are, it's a basis for a lot of the strife that goes on between couples. Men want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and they don't want all that excess. Their goal is to communicate some idea. Mm-hmm. Whereas for women, it's not so much what we say, is that we connect. We love to connect, and we use talking to connect.
Right.
So it really does, and I call it meandering. Men are going from A to B, straight line. Women are just meandering, arm in arm. We're taking a little stroll through the park, and if we don't get to our destination, no problem, we'll do it next week. And we love
I have to admit, in my own life, it took me a long time to get to realize that when my wife, let's say, would have a hard day at work and would tell me about some difficult person she was working with, and I would immediately say, well, listen, you need to go to the director of HR, and you need to do this, you need to do that, and then 2 weeks later she's talking about the same problem. And in the beginning, I was saying, well, look, why didn't you follow my advice? But it took me a long time to realize she wasn't asking me for my advice.
That's one of the best things I think John Gray talks about is, she doesn't want you to fix the problem, she just wants you to listen.
Right.
And if you just say, and touch her once in a while, with a nice pat, you don't even have to be listening that well.
No, that's true.
So, yeah, and so I point those kind of things out to men. And in particular, because one of the secrets in my book is that men really crave intimacy more than women do, which usually surprises people.
Yeah, well,
I love it when I say that when I'm speaking, because everyone's eyebrows go up. It's like, huh?
Can you hold that thought for a minute, Kara? Because we've got to take another short break. But okay. I want to. That sounds like a provocative statement there. I want to hear more about that. We'll be right back with more insights from our guest, relationship author Kara O. This is Relationship Radio, and I'm Jim Duzak.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. That's it. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Are you ready to grow your business? Listen for the Independent Business Owner Show with your coach, Rick Corrado. This entertaining talk radio program will bring you the tools to help increase your business. You'll learn sales success, time management, lead generation, business development, life balance, and much more. Rick Corrado is here to help you take your business to the next level. Listen for the Independent Business Owners Show, heard live every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Network.
The biggest secret about men is that they are far more complicated than we often give them credit for. Join Dr. Chris Blazina as we discover more about the secret lives of men. This is an informative and positive program exploring the various facets of men's lives, from growing up to growing old. The Secret Lives of Men with Dr. Chris Blazina is broadcast live every Tuesday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on Voice America.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet Talk Radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Hello again. We're talking today with Kara O., author of numerous books on men-women relationships. Kara's website is www.karao, I'll spell it once more, KARAOH.com. Kara, before we went into the last break, you said something that I thought was pretty provocative. You said that men, if I'm not misquoting you, you said men crave intimacy more than women do.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
It's one of my secrets. Actually, because women are so good at creating intimacy, I mean, I can have an intimate conversation with a woman in the checkout line. Yep. We get into these very personal things, and we connect heart to heart. Women want that with their guys, and the guys they can't be the best girlfriend. But because men are so isolated emotionally, they've been taught since they were little guys, don't cry, be a man, pick yourself back up, get back out there, don't be a sissy. Mm-hmm. And so they've been taught, actually, there's a wonderful study, when they're babies, baby boys are allowed to cry longer, held less, handled more roughly, spoken to more roughly, the whole thing. So from day one, they're taught to shut it off. But they have feelings. I believe men are capable of loving more deeply than women. Women don't like me to say that.
I was going to say, do you get some resistance on that one?
I really do. Men feel very deeply, but they don't know what to do with them. They've been taught to stuff them in. But culture says, hey, but it's okay to go out there and, get in, have your way with women. So, did you get to first base?
Right.
Or whatever. What base is it? Third base? Whatever the good base is. And so they don't have permission to be intimate any other way than sexually.
Yeah.
They want it. Men told me when I would do these interviews, and I know this trick on getting guys to open up, they would tell me how good it felt and that they'd never shared stuff with anyone before that they shared with me, that they liked it.
And when they're not allowed, when they don't have an expression of that intimacy or even expression of sexuality, what you see all the time with men is that they start drinking too much.
That's right.
All the time. A guy gets divorced, let's say. The first thing he does is start hitting the bars, partly because he thinks he's going to meet women there.
Right.
But reality is, if he's over 40, the only thing he's not going to get romance in bars. All he's going to get is, just a chance to get drunk and to waste whatever money he has and go home depressed.
And numb the feelings. That's right. Well, and men commit suicide more than women do. Women attempt it more.
Yeah.
But men are successful more. And people don't know that. We don't talk about that in culture. And it's pretty sad. So what I do is, you asked me earlier, what do I teach men? One of the things is, see if both of them understand this. I love it when couples write to me and say, I bought Men Made Easy for me, but we've been reading it together, and he's loving it too. And it's bringing up all these new conversations, like, is this true for you? And then he can talk about it. But women, for a woman to be open sexually, he has to be making love to her kind of all day. And that means a little gentle touch, helping her out.
Non-sexual touching is such a big thing.
Huge. If, walking behind her while she's in the kitchen and he kisses her neck.
Exactly.
I mean, that is one of the best things a guy can do.
Yeah, there's no question that foreplay is crucial, but foreplay isn't limited to the stuff that you see in the sex manuals.
No, and see, that's the thing. Most men think foreplay or getting her ready is right before.
Right.
And she gets resentful.
Especially if he's been ignoring her. 10 minutes before, he's got his, he's staring at the computer screen and she's talking to him and he's just going,
Right. So it's really a matter of, it's a matter of consciousness, and that's why books are good if you really want to make these changes. And you start being more aware of what's possible, more aware of what hasn't been working, more aware of bad habits, and then start replacing them with good habits that do work and respect and honor each other. And, in Marriage Made Easy, one of the several pieces is if you really don't feel like you love each other in the way that you'd like to anymore, both of you go off separately when you're quiet and get a journal or something you write down, and write down all the things you did when you were falling in love. What did your partner do to and for you? What did you do to and for her?
That's a good one.
And most important, quiet yourself down in kind of a relaxation meditation and remember what it felt like in your body. How did it feel? That's where we hold our emotions, in our body. And then get together for a date, no interruptions, and share your journals. And it's like taking a little walk down memory lane. Oh, remember when you did that thing to me, it was so great, and this is how it made me feel. You can start bringing back the in-love sparkles, as I call them, by doing that process. That's just one of the pieces in Marriage Made Easy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's from Marriage Made Easy or one of your blogs, but I remember you once said that daily life should never get in the way of romance.
But it will if you don't consciously do things to counter what's going on. You have to consciously realize if we don't do something about keeping our love alive, life, the minutia, and some of it's not minutia, taking care of the kids. That's a big responsibility.
Right.
Doing our jobs. We're tired, but we have to make time and space for us. If we have to make a date, I mean, my ex and I, we had Friday night, date night, if we didn't get around to it otherwise, because we knew it was important.
Well, that's one of the things, putting politics aside, but one of the things I admire about President and Mrs. Obama is that, I don't know if it's still going on, but Michelle Obama gave an interview prior to the inauguration that she and the president have, for years, had this inviolable date night.
Yeah.
Nothing gets in the way of it.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about the kids. They don't just talk about the bills or the campaign or any of that stuff. It's
absolutely. I recommend that all the time in my writings, that you have to make time for it. Otherwise, I mean, just general day-to-day life, setting aside real problems, like, someone loses their job or there's a health issue, but just basic stuff gets in the way of people being able to stay in love.
Well, there's no question that part of being married is to have a well-run domestic partnership, if you will.
Yeah.
But marriage should be more than that.
Absolutely.
And, your conversations shouldn't be just about, do you remember to pay the electric bill? Now, yes, you want to pay the electric bill, there's no question. Then cars need oil changes and all that kind of thing. But if that's all you're talking about, it's pretty dreary.
Yeah. There's in the Marriage Made Easy, I have something called the RPL technology, and it has three pieces. One is that you decide you do want to make your marriage work, and so you recommit to each other. And however often you do that has to do with how bad things are. If it's really bad, you do it every week or maybe every day, and then you can spread it out as things get better. That's the R. The P is prioritize. You put your relationship at the top of the to-do list. Wherever you write your stuff down for the day, the things you have to get done, Daytimer, whatever, your Palm Pilot, I guess they don't have those anymore. You put that at the very top, and then the L is love. And I have all kinds of ways, and you come up with creative ways every day, which people go, oh, no, I don't have time. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
What I love
little
about
things, just like
suggestions,
kissing
you're talking
her on the
about
back
almost
of the
everything.
neck.
They're easy to implement.
Putting a note in their little pocket, I love you. Just things out of the ordinary, not the I love you too. You don't quit doing those, but those are so rote. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
They're just habit. But they're enough of a habit that if the person doesn't say it back, then that could put up a little red flag. But it's something, just a tiny little thing that's out of the ordinary. And that will keep you helping you get in the habit of putting your relationship first. Because if that doesn't work, then nothing else is really quite working right.
Yeah.
Including, if you have kids, you're potentially destroying the family at some point once you quit caring.
Right. Well, you said you were married 29 years, is that right?
I was married 29 years. I thought I would never be a divorced lady.
They were already grown by the time you got divorced?
Yeah, my daughter, I think that was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's 40, so do the math. I don't know how old she was.
Yeah. No, I just wondered, it just seems that with so many people, you don't learn these lessons until it's too late, or not that it's too late in your life, but it was too late for that marriage anyway.
Well, I don't think that there's anything I could have done to have, no matter how much I might have, if I knew everything I know today, it wouldn't have worked. Because I believe, and he doesn't ever admit it, that he was going through a midlife crisis. He had a psychic body worker that was telling him he ought to have an affair, and he believed her. She had an open marriage, and all of a sudden he wanted an open marriage. He never wanted a divorce, but I couldn't handle the open marriage. If you want us to have a better marriage and love each other more, you don't spread it around. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
it's
I
one
don't
of those
care what
things
this woman says.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried for a year and a half to get okay with the idea of an open marriage. And then it turned out he'd kind of gone ahead without me because he got frustrated that I couldn't come around to that idea. And I just said, okay, fine, if you can do this and lie.
Carol, let me ask you this. Are you able to stay on for one more segment? I know we said that the interview would end at this point, but can you stay on another 10 or 12 minutes? I'd love to ask you some more questions about your latest book. Okay. We'll be right back. This is Relationship Radio, and we're talking with best-selling author Kara O.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Total career success. What does it mean to you? Voice America presents a radio program dedicated to help you achieve your career goal. Even in times of economic uncertainty, you can achieve your financial goals. Whether you're a college grad, new in the working environment, or a top-level executive, you will benefit from the practical and proven advice on job search and career advancement. Join Ken and Cheryl Dawson every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern for Total Career Success on Voice America.
the Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Hello again. We're with our guest, well-known author, Kara O. KaraO.com, KaraOH.com. And Kara, if you've been listening, you know that Kara is the author of quite a number of books, and she has a forthcoming book coming out called Flirting Made Easy. And maybe we could talk about that, Kara, and about dating in general, because I think you're also working on something, or you have something out called Dating Made Easy. Is that right?
Yes. I already had Dating Made Easy, and it was going to be a bonus to Flirting Made Easy, but I had 5 great bonuses ready to go. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put the Dating Made Easy out there as the primary book, and then there's a bonus that you get Flirting Made Easy the moment it's done. And in the meantime, be reading all these other things, get yourself prepared. One of them is how to recognize the right man for you. And that's really almost like a course where you go through and answer all these questions, come up with your relationship essentials, which I mentioned earlier. Just get, the 5 to 8 that you really have to have in your life, or you're not going to be happy. Your mate essentials, what you have to have in a man, or you're not going to be happy. Not things that you can change him into later. And then, what are your intolerable male qualities, the things that you absolutely cannot live with? And that way you have a really good blueprint.
But the problem, Kara, though, is that so many women, and I think women are more guilty of this than men, so many women seem to want to get every one of those questions answered on the first date. And,
oh, God, I know.
And so, you know what I mean? And the guy feels that he's under attack.
Oh, yeah, it's the cross-examine, you're
That's
in
right.
the courtroom or the job interview. Oh,
right.
Women do that. They're terrible at it. And so that's something I warn them about in several places in different books. Don't do this. I do talk about doing your due diligence, but there's different levels of due diligence.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to all be done in the first 20 minutes.
No. Well, some of it, a lot of it doesn't even need to be done in the first date. It's just a date.
That's right.
Women make it out to be the thing that's going to transform the rest of their lives. Men show up, they're going to just have a good time. That's their intention. Yeah, they're kind of looking for the one, but they want to have a good time.
Right.
So in the Dating Made Easy, I have actually 3 lists of questions. Mm-hmm. One is the first date questions, and the goal is to learn about each other, but in a playful way. And then the second date questions, if there is a second date, then you're going to go a little deeper. And then the third date questions are more, but they're still not the grilling kind of questions. Mm-hmm. And throughout the first 2 or 3 dates, you're going to find out what the long-term desire is. If the guy's, not interested in marriage ever, that's going to come up.
Yes.
And maybe before you go to the second date, depending on how it goes, just be able to say, I just want you to know I enjoyed you and being with you. I'm loving learning about you, and I think it's not a bad idea for you to know that at some point I'm looking to get married. Mm-hmm. And as long as we're both at some point have that in our future, great. Then we'll continue to see each other. I mean, you can do that in a way that isn't like, okay, what are you looking for?
Right.
It just blows me away, the stories I hear from men, not from women.
Well, the other thing is you don't necessarily have to ask a question per se in order to figure out the answer. Like, I don't know anything about your educational background, for example, but I can tell just by talking to you, you're a very intelligent, and I would presume educated person, articulate person, thoughtful person. I don't need to know. Now, at some point, if we got to know each other better, I would probably find out where you went to school and so forth. But I don't need to know that. People need to just sort of let this stuff sink in. That's right. And even the long-term idea, where are people? They think they know where they are,
But for a man in particular, he's more likely to say, I'm not looking for long-term, but for the right woman,
that's right.
Everything turns around because men like being married or in a committed long-term relationship. It feels good. And I tell you, women don't realize what pressure it is for men to go out and find someone to have sex with. It's not easy. And so, they love it when they get someone that they're madly in love with and they get to have sex with her all the time without having to go through all the rigmarole of meeting women and seducing them and paying all those, for all those meals.
Do you give advice to women about how soon in a relationship they should have sex, that kind of thing?
Of course I do. And my standard reply is put it off as long as possible for several reasons. One is it makes your brain fuzzy. I'm sorry. That bonding hormone, you'll get bonded to someone that is totally wrong for you. But because your hormones are telling you something else, there you are. But if you also let him know that you're really attracted to him, and it'll be great when that happens, but that you need to wait longer, that tells you two things about the man. One is he is interested in you enough to wait.
Mm-hmm.
The other is he respects you enough to wait. You want to know those things.
Yep.
So, and I've talked to men who've said, I thought Susie was maybe going to be the one, but man, she was okay to have sex on the first or second date, and so it's like, well, never mind. I know it's a double standard and it upsets women, but there are enough men out there that have this issue where they need to put a woman on a pedestal a bit. And if she says, "Oh, I don't ever do this on a first date or a second date," I'm sorry. He's heard that from every other woman. They don't believe it. Even if it's true, they don't believe it. So put it off as long as possible until you really feel like, you know what? I really like this guy. I think that he, there could be something here.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's okay.
Do you feel the same way about, say, cohabitation? Should people, is it a mistake to live together without there being any real prospect of marriage or immediate prospect?
I have feelings about that, but to me, it doesn't seem to be a good idea.
I feel the same way.
I know.
Unless there's a marriage date set already.
Well, yes.
Otherwise, it just kind of drifts.
It does, and you end up going through the same issues, and it's amazing how often people that they live together, then they get married, and then it falls apart because they've gotten settled into this one way of being, and then all of a sudden they change because now we're married, and things start to fall apart. So it's best, I think, not to get into whatever those habits are that come with the we're not married attitude, and then shifts over. It's just, I don't know. So I think, if you've got a date set and you're engaged, that's different because your mind is in a whole different place.
Yep.
And it takes the romance out of the whole, making that step. Young people, they don't even think twice. They start dating and they're moving in together after, 5 dates. It's mind-boggling to me. But, the young people have a whole different everything going on. They have no concept of of sex being sacred. It's not even on the map.
Most of your clients and most of your readers are probably not college age or in their 20s.
People have said, why don't you write for the young people? I don't get the young people. I really don't. This whole thing with girls, doing stuff to the guys at parties at 12 and 14.
And these casual hookups and people meeting each other on Craigslist or something.
No, it's just, it's party favors. So there's a whole thing going on that I can't even begin to know how to talk about. Self-confidence is the only thing that I would be able to feel comfortable talking to young women about, and young men. But, I do know that the boys commit suicide more than the girls do.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. The boys they're getting lost. The girl power and lots of emphasis on helping girls be powerful and strong. Nothing's being done for the boys. They're falling through the cracks.
Kara, we could be talking the next 2 hours about this stuff. I wish we could, but the show has got to come to an end soon. But I just want to tell the listeners that my guest next Friday, May 8th, will be Susan Kuczynskis, who has written a fascinating book called The Chemistry of Connection, How the Oxytocin Response can help you find trust, intimacy, and love. And trust me, you don't have to be a chemistry major to understand this. Anyway, that's next Friday, May 8th. Until then, have a great weekend, spread some love around, and Kara, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It was delightful.
It was great fun.
Thanks again for joining us this week on Relationship Radio with Jim Duzak. Please join us again next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on Voice America. Have a great weekend.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit VoiceAmericaVariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live